Hello everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity that allows me to talk to you a little bit about our new collaboration between Brookings and the JICA緒方Research Institute on For the World's Profit. It's a particular privilege for me. My name is Homi. I'm a research senior fellow at the Center for Sustainable Development at the Brookings Institution, but also a research partner with the JICA緒方Research Institute. I think that right now, in early 2025, as this book gets published, it's a particularly important point in time, and it's a real opportunity. And I say this because, for the first time in 2025, reporting on sustainability has become mandatory in many jurisdictions around the world. It's now the law in Japan. In Europe, as many of you know, Europe has taken the lead with sustainability reporting. Now in the UK, and even in the United States, the Securities and Exchange Commission is asking all publicly listed companies to report on their climate-related activities. So for the first time in many jurisdictions, including in many large developing economies, such as Brazil and India, under the auspices of the International Sustainability Standards Board, we now have companies really putting together information in a standardized, comparable way of what they're doing on sustainability reporting. And that is leading to and generating an evolving ecosystem of how to measure, use this new information. And what we thought would be useful in this volume would be to take a look from a number of different perspectives to take a look at how this might evolve over time. So we built a book around three parts, where we said there are three really important sets of actors in this ecosystem. We have business actors, the CEOs, the boards of companies who are focused now much more on sustainability and how they should think about that in terms of their own firm's activities. We have financial actors who are thinking about how to allocate capital to and within companies. And we have the standard setters and the regulators and the policymakers who are trying to put together guidelines and standards for these private sector actors to operate. And within each of these, you also have quite different perspectives, because there are so many actors, each with their own incentives. So under corporate actors, we recognize the key role of chief executive officers, and who better to write a chapter on this than Paul Polman. He's the former CEO of Unilever, one of the leaders of the Business Commission report that first suggested that the SDGs could unlock $12 trillion in new business opportunities if CEOs dared to think differently about sustainability. We also realized that most firms are small and medium-sized, with limited capacity to implement comprehensive sustainability strategies and to do extensive reporting. So how should we think about them? Well, Ndidi Mwaneli, who's a serial social entrepreneur and now president and CEO of the One Campaign, has been on the front line and offers her thoughts on practical steps to support SME in contributing to sustainable development. Now, companies are steered by their boards of directors. So Emily Farnsworth and Eldred Harrington from the Centre for Climate Engagement at my alma mater, Cambridge University in the UK, share ideas for how boards need to update corporate governance practices to meet sustainability challenges. And our own co-editor, Jane Nelson, who's the founding director of the Corporate Responsibility Initiative at Harvard's Kennedy School and a non-resident senior fellow with our program at Brookings, writes about how industry alliances can come together to drive systemic change. Then you've got the financial actors. Is it reasonable to suppose that the allocation of capital to and within companies could shift to promote more socially desirable activities? If that happened, the impact could really be quite significant. Sasha Beslik is the Chief Investment Strategy Officer of SDG Impact Japan. He explores how asset owners send both direct and indirect signals across markets and warns that the hurdles to sustainable investment are significant but not insuperable. Liliana Rojas Suarez, a senior fellow at the Center for Global Development, focuses on the particular issues that banks have in applying Basel regulations to infrastructure investments and SMEs in developing countries. And to be honest, without changes in the way in which banks account for the capital requirements of the loans they make in these sectors, all of the data and the reporting on social and sustainable impact will not dramatically change bank behavior in these countries. Now, one of the largest sources of capital in the world lies in the portfolios of insurance companies. And Ekoswehi Iahen is the Secretary General of the Insurance Development Forum, a public-private partnership based in London. Her focus is on how to overcome the massive insurance gap that currently prevails and how to use insurance models and tools to better understand and adapt to risks and to build resilience. So all these private sector actors operate under the rules of the game set by policymakers and regulators. Rick Saymons, a former managing director of the World Economic Forum and director of the ILO's research department, founder of the Climate Disclosure Standards Board, Rick provides a long view of the history of how international sustainability reporting standards have evolved to this point, where we actually have interoperability between standards in different jurisdictions, while at the same time permitting a certain degree of flexibility. Tom Seidenstein, who's the chair of the International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board, and Warren Maroon, professor at the University of Witwatersrand School of Accountancy and the University of Leeds, and board member of IAASB, underline the role of assurance in verifying company reports. There's an awful lot of greenwashing that is going around right now, and it's really important to have industry standards on verification of what companies actually publish. And the IAASB have put in place new global benchmarks in November of last year, which will be applied this year, which the international community of securities regulators is encouraging all countries to adopt. Katsuo Matsumoto, Vice President of JICA, former Chief Rep for JICA in India, writes about the impact of a completely different type of regulation, one based on compelling large companies to engage in corporate social responsibility activities. India is one of the first countries to experiment with such regulations, and you see what's happening now in the world is a lot of experimentation with different forms of trying to persuade companies to participate and engage more in sustainability activities, but under different regulations. So the whole idea here is that sustainability reporting should signal how companies are affecting broader elements of society. But Alberto Alemano, who's Professor of European Union Law at HEC Paris Business School, documents how one important area, namely lobbying, is not yet subject to any disclosure. There's a history of some large companies appearing progressive in their public statements on sustainability, while quietly lobbying vigorously in the opposite direction through their government relations departments or trade associations. And lobbying remains a really secretive corner of sustainability reporting, where we don't have a good sense of exactly what companies are doing. Last but not least, Ichiro Sato and Kei Endo from the JICA Ogata Research Institute tell the remarkable story of how Japanese business has been transformed in just a few years to embrace the SDGs. It's an extraordinary story of how a whole-of-society approach is really required in order to build this awareness that in a way that encompasses all stakeholders in society for the benefit of all stakeholders in society. The real point I hope that you take away from this is that in this volume we have had an extraordinary group of authors who have provided us with their unique perspectives from very different vantage points. And one really needs to understand these vantage points to get a better sense of exactly how this ecosystem is starting to evolve. So our book is designed so that one can dip in and out of individual chapters. And I hope that as you do this, you keep in mind three big debates that are ongoing and that will shape how all this will play out in the years to come. The first is the debate on value creation. More specifically, for whom are we trying to create value? Is it just the shareholders of a company? or should there be a broader view of stakeholders? Will the two overlap neatly? Like, for example, when companies save on water or save on raw materials, it adds to their profits and it is an improvement to sustainability. But there may also be areas where there are trade-offs, where there's scope for free riding by companies. And there have been big swings in the pendulum on this debate, especially where I am in the United States of America. And I feel we're in the middle of another swing in the pendulum. At its heart, what sustainability reporting will do is help to inform this debate. A second big debate is on risk management. Should the management and officers of businesses concern themselves only with the risks to their own firm, or with broader societal risks resulting from their activities? In European parlance, should we worry about double materiality or single materiality? This is a debate that's alive and well with very strong opinions on both sides. And third and finally, there's a debate on accountability. Who are firms accountable to and for what? And this goes to the heart of whether to expand the coverage of mandatory reporting, because you can only ask firms and hold firms accountable if you know what they are doing in particular areas. So should we have more mandatory reporting, or should we leave firms with broad discretion in terms of voluntarily disclosing their activities? So I would say that each of these three debates is playing out at different speeds and in different ways in different jurisdictions and in different industries. And we don't make any predictions in the book as to the direction that this will end up taking. But I think all of us believe that the outcomes could be as important to the workings of capitalism as the introduction of financial reporting was to accounting so many years ago. One of the things that was really striking to me is how something so important is largely divorced from the global governance and development discussions that are now taking place across the world in forums such as the G20, the UNFCCC, and even the UN's Sustainable Development Goals and the so-called Pact for the Future Summit. These are all big international political discussions that are trying to shape global societal outcomes, but the explicit roles and responsibilities of private business were largely excluded from those discussions. We really hope that this volume, in a small way, will help to bring together these worlds where corporate actors, financial actors, and policymakers who all share this interest in creating a better society for all of us can come together with a common language. So I encourage you to take a look at some of the chapters of this book. I'm sure that you will find some fresh and interesting material, and I hope that you keep in mind that the private sector will be fundamental to our ability to improve the societies in which we live. Thank you.